I wanted to talk about what I've been trying to do with the channel, and I'll be honest with you, I really don't have a set direction, and I kind of feel that it would be easier if I did. Maybe it'd come easier to do videos if I had a set, like, I see some channels, they just concentrate on repair, or some channels just concentrate on whatever their specialty is. And I'll be honest, I kind of try to do a little bit of everything, and I like to do different variety of things. It gets kind of old just doing repairs or just doing, projects like the blue truck behind me and whatnot. So I try to do a little bit of everything. Now, if you guys want to jump in, throw a comment down, what you like to see. Chances are, if you like it and you want to see it, I probably have something that needs that type of thing. If you're like, oh, I want to see a car get detailed, or hey, I want to see some body work get done, or hey, I want to see you do a repair or sell a car, buy a car, whatever it is. Or I just want you to do walk-arounds on the cars you own, or talk about cars you've owned in the past. Any of that stuff, you throw that in the comments, and I'll throw out the videos for you guys, and it might help me kind of be a little bit more focus driven in doing this, because I really enjoy doing it, but I find that I fall off because, maybe what I think is interesting for people to see might not be interesting. So, I feel like, I'm not gonna record that. Who cares about that? Or other times is I just plain out start working and get into whatever I'm doing, and I never grab the camera, and by the time I think about it, I'm already too far into it where you can't really get the footage or get the content that I really want to put out there. The videos I do, as few of them as I've done, I want them to be good, and I want you guys to enjoy watching them. So figure today, good video. Let's talk about the little 86 Toyota pickup truck. Pickup truck. Now, I've owned this truck for 7-8 months at this point. Bought it late in the, I call it late in the fall, early in the winter. So end of October, beginning of November, and now it's May. And I've been driving it pretty much straight through since I picked it up. Now, I've always had an affection towards these trucks, always really liked these trucks. And I think it goes back to when I was a kid. Now, I was born in 1982, late 82. So when I grew up, I was watching, movies like Back to the Future. And I had, older cousins of mine that were in driving age and, making good money, and they owned trucks like this. So I remember the Back to the Future truck, the black one, just seeing it in the movie. I remember when I was a kid, they had these trucks, they were like RC cars, they had toys to play with. There's just something about the design of these trucks that I just think is really just, even nowadays in 2020, just great to look at. So this particular truck, how I came across it, really, funny story, and it'd almost be like I was making it up if it wasn't so true, but I had owned a 2015 Ford F-150. Now, a few years ago, I had sold a silver diesel I had, and I had a couple other cars I had gotten rid of, and I was kind of in this mode, and this happened to me a few times in my past, where I say, I'm gonna get rid of all my stuff, and I'm just gonna have one nice thing, so that was the original plan. Now, I had a Corvette I sold, I had a LX Mustang I sold, and I had my 99 silver diesel that I sold. And after I sold all those, I came across, I wanted a all aluminum F-150. I wanted the 2015 body style F-150, and I wanted it lifted. I wanted it with the 5.0 motor. I was very specific on what I wanted, crew cab. So I'm looking, and I don't really buy from dealerships. I've worked at dealerships. I do not buy from dealerships because I've worked at dealerships. So I buy everything private owner. I've only purchased 3 vehicles from a dealership, and 2 of those were direct wholesale purchases. Like the dealer took it in on a trade, and I had it in good with the sales manager, and I bought it direct for like $500 over whatever they paid. And then one time I bought from another dealership that I hadn't worked on, I had bought a truck. I had bought a 2005 2500 HD GMC pickup, and that was the only truck I ever bought from a dealer that was like a straight dealer purchase. And I negotiated the hell out of it, but they're a dealer, and I'm sure they made a good amount of money on me, and that's just the way it is, and that's why I don't buy from dealers. So when I'm shopping for my F-150, I'm looking privately, and at the time I was buying that F-150, it's about I think we're knocking on the third, about 3 years ago right around this time, I was buying that truck. And I ended up coming across one on eBay that was a few towns over from where I live at the time. So I made contact with the gentleman, went, checked it out, ended up buying the truck. It was kind of that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day to deal with buying that truck. So I bought the truck and sold all my other stuff, and I'm like, here we go, I got my one truck and I love it. And then 2 years later, I'm tired of it. And that happens to me, that's a whole nother conversation. That's, like I said, probably the third time that I've done something like that in my history of owning cars, where I've sold off a bunch of stuff I've collected over time and tried to buy one thing to have one thing. So had the F-150, turn around, 2 years later, I sell it. I sold the F-150. 4 days later, I'm on Craigslist one night after dinner, sitting on my phone, as I do, and I'm looking, scrolling, and I come across this. And to come across one of these in New England that's in any kind of condition like this is rare. So immediately I clicked on the picture. The ad was an hour old. I think the ad was 1 hour old according to what the time it was posted. So immediately I see it. I click on the ad, read through it. California truck, brought out here 6 months ago, 8 months ago, tells the history about the truck, da-da-da-da-da. The town is Shelton. I'm like, okay, Shelton. On the Craigslist app I use, I hit contact information. Comes up the gentleman's name, Eric, but Eric with a K. Now that to me is odd. Most Erics are with a C, E-R-I-C, not E-R-I-K. So I'm like, Eric with a K, Shelton. I bought my lifted F-150 2015 from an Eric who lived near Shelton and had a K at the end of his name. What are the odds it's the same Eric? I click on the contact info to go to text, and sure enough, his name pops up in my phone. And the minute I hit it to text him, all the texts from 2 years ago on my iPhone pop up from when I was buying the F-150. So I text him, I'm like, hey Eric, my name is so-and-so. I believe I had purchased a 2015 F-150 from you, and I am now interested in your Toyota pickup truck. He texts me back within seconds. Hey Chris, how are you? Knew exactly who I was. Same thing happened to him. The minute I texted him, my name and all my old texts from when I bought the truck popped up. So I've had multiple times where I've owned the same vehicle twice. I think I've had one time I've owned the same vehicle 3 times. I've definitely had, since I've owned the same vehicle twice, times where I've sold the same vehicle twice. But I've never bought 2 separate vehicles from the same person years apart, and the taste of the vehicles are kind of unique, because the 2015 F-150 was 6 inches lifted, you know, big tires spaced out. It's not a truck for every person. It was a truck for me. It's a truck I like, don't get me wrong. A lot of people like the truck, but not everybody buys that truck. Not everybody is buying an 86 Toyota pickup truck that came from California, but me and this guy, I guess, just share a very, very similar taste in vehicles. So that's how I ended up coming across the Toyota. Now, I bought it, and I've been registered and driving it ever since I purchased it. This truck, as I said, came from California, spent his whole life out in California till he bought it. And he had bought it probably the beginning or the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. So he only owned it a short time. And the story behind him buying it is he had him in high school. He's older than me by a few years. So since he had owned them in high school, he was always a huge fan of them, like I was growing up. And he saw it and wanted it and bought it. And then I think, you know, like everything else, he drove it for a while and the luster wore off, and, you know, other cars come along. I think he wanted to buy like a BMW 540 series, like a late 90s, early 2000s, which is basically probably the best BMW 540s you can buy. I think he was looking for a 6-speed one, which I'm a huge fan of those cars also. So that's kind of just to show how similar our tastes are. And he wanted to sell it. So we texted back and forth, and he was nice enough to hold it for me. He said he had a lot of people trying to buy it from him. I do believe that, and I think if I was to put it out for sale, it probably similar thing would happen. I think the demand on the truck, I do get a lot of attention. A lot of people ask about it. Bought it to daily drive it. As you can see, it's total Survivor original now. On all the doors, on all the fenders, on all the hood, it's got all its original VIN stickers. It doesn't appear to have had any body work or paint work ever. It's got all the original decals on it, and it shows every bit of wear that it's had. So you can see, you know, it's got blemishes. It's got It's got the mileage on it. It shows. It's got a nice cracked windshield. Look at that. That's original windshield. Cracked though it may be. It has over 270,000 miles on this truck. It's been rebuilt engine. It's been taken care of its whole life. A truck doesn't get to this kind of mileage and stay in this condition unless it's been taken care of. That I can promise you. And the fact that it's spent its whole life out in California is the only reason why it's not totally rotted to the gills. Because any truck out here that's a Toyota, new, old, they all end up rotted. And this one, not that at all. The underneath is as clean as the top. But like I said, look at it. Look at the bed. Shows its age, shows its use, and I've just been daily driving it. I've been thinking about doing some little projects on it. I've been thinking about updating the headlights on it, maybe putting some HID headlights in it. I definitely want to detail the engine compartment. Let me show you. So this is kind of I think a well-optioned pickup truck. Power windows, power locks, which is a rarity. It has cruise control. It has defroster rear glass. It's the extended cab, and it's an SR5 extended cab. So these buckets are 4Runner buckets, but it did come original with a center console, which is odd. It's not a bench seat, non-center console. Most of the trucks are that way. Like I said, the power windows, power locks. It does have a power antenna. It has cruise control, but it has no air conditioning, which doesn't make sense because it came from California. Gone through, the head has been done. It's got an aftermarket header on it. And I've been really giving some consideration to seriously detailing this engine compartment, even though I like it the way it shows, because it shows like a very honest, engine compartment. It shows that the truck's been driven, it's been used, but it's still all intact, nice, clean, it's been maintained, and that's the most important thing. But I drove it throughout the winter. Any day it wasn't actively snowing, and if it did actively snow, within a couple days of that, I wouldn't drive it. I'd drive my plow truck, but then I would drive it. And I did fluid film the underneath of the truck. I believe in that stuff. In this area, you have to fluid film if you want to keep your trucks or whatever you own nice. You got to fluid film them every year. If you do that, and you don't drive them when they're actively snowing and whatnot, and when the roads are crappy, you could keep a vehicle like this in daily driving, keep it really nice like this for a long time. But if you don't do those steps and you don't take the extra care, eventually it's, New England's gonna win. It's gonna get to it. And some people might think it's a shame to do that to the truck, but the truck doesn't get this kind of mileage without being used. And I just think it's a shame to not continue to use it in the fashion that it's basically used to. I think, over time, cars learn the habit. It sounds really ridiculous for me to even say that, but I think it's true. I think if a vehicle is used to being driven every day, the worst thing you could do to it is just let it sit. Versus if it's been sitting a long time and it's got the super low mileage, everybody wants the super low mileage. I think sometimes cars with too low a mileage that sit too much, they start showing the cracks in the foundation once you start driving them. They start having little problems that when the person that maybe only drove them twice a week to and back from the store never noticed. So you start driving it on the highway every day, putting 30, 40 miles a day on it, and then you start noticing it has little issues. So I like to drive my stuff. I like to own things that are clean and cared for, but I don't mind them showing what they are. And this truck shows exactly what it is. So like I said, I wanted to do a walk around on it, tell you guys, the story about how I bought it, which I think is hilarious in itself. The fact that I ended up buying it from the same guy that I had bought another truck from. And after I had bought the first truck from him, it's not like we had contact. We didn't talk. We didn't see each other. We didn't become like buddies. I mean, he's a nice guy, great guy. And if he ends up owning something one day that I like, or maybe, one day I'll own something that he'll like, and it might be the other way around. I might call him and say, hey, dude, I got this car. Maybe you're interested in it, because he seems like that kind of guy that's sort of like me, where you like different stuff, but you like variety too. I like to change it up. I don't like to drive the same stuff. I'm about a year, maybe two. The car I've ever held on to the longest, I had two of them. I had a Mustang 5.0 that I drove in high school. I had that for a lot of years. Then I had my Buick Grand National I owned for quite a few years. But besides that, I'm like a year to a year and a half type of guy, and then they're in and out. So, like I said, I wanted to take you guys a walk around on the truck, show you it, tell you the story behind it. If you like this video, like the video, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. You guys want to see more of a walk around on it? You want me to get into something specific on it? Or you want to see me do a project on it? Man, jump in there, tell me what you want to see, and I'll try to shoot it for you guys.